And there we have it. That's what I was going for. It's not perfect, and there's a few tweaks and changes I'll make on the actual build, but for a model, this is what I'm shooting for. The timbers are too expensive to make mistakes on, so got to work out all the details in a situation like this, and I'm very happy with it. Here's both posts with the beam, and you can see my notes on the left post. I'll be putting notes on this other one too as I move forward. So yeah, overall, very satisfied.
There's a bunch of firewood. Thanks for joining me. I just wanted to take a second to recap the project that I'm working on. The first video in this series has a more detailed overview, but for the purpose of this video, essentially I'm building a sculpture garden in West Texas, which will be composed of a series of timber frame structures, each of which will hold various sculptures and artwork inside of them. And so in this video, I'm basically working on the scale model of an entranceway. And I've got some sketches I'm going to show you. Here's the first sketch, which is really just a real basic kind of look at the structure and the entranceway, which you can see there. And then here's a front view of the entranceway. And then here is I did this on SketchUp, it's a more fleshed out vision of what the entranceway will be like at the end, which will have all sorts of bells and whistles like stained glass and carvings and stuff like that. So that, I know it seems like I'm a long way from there, but the reason why I'm making a model is because I wanted to do something a little different than typical timber frame joinery. I mean, it's not innovative or completely new, it just draws off of various joints that I've seen that have inspired me. So I needed to figure out like measurements and proportions and angles and just the blocking and tackling of making these joints before I figure that out on large expensive timbers. And so that brings us to another thing that I wanted to mention, which is my inspiration for this type of joinery and this type of timber framing. While I absolutely love Western style timber framing and I'm very, very inspired by it, I really love Japanese and Korean timber framing, if for no other reason than they've stood the test of time in a way that very few things in human history have, as far as it goes with wood construction. There are temples in Japan that have been around for upwards of 1,500 years that were built without nails or screws. With that in mind, it's important for me to get all this right before I really get into building the actual thing. Thus the model making and all the sketches. And but you know, I appreciate you joining me on this journey. I hope it inspires you. And now I'm going to get started on working on this sill. So now you can kind of see a square on each side, and that's going to be the through mortise. So I marked it on each side, and I'll work it from each side so that they'll meet kind of in the middle, and if it's a little bit off, you won't really see that from the outside. This is the outside, the front post. So I'm gonna leave this exactly as it is, so that the tenon will just come through about 1/2 inch, just like it does up here, down there. And then in here, on the inside, I'm gonna cut out like 1/2 inch to make a shoulder for the beam to fit right in there. So that's what I'm gonna do next, is cut this bit out. Now I need to make the tenon that goes through there. So cut that out of here and go from there. See how straight the grain is? You can only really do this when the grain is straight. Otherwise, it could cut into the tenon or out, and then you got to do a bunch of work to get it straight. So. Still need to clean up the cheeks a little bit, but that's looking pretty good. A little bit of a gap there, but I think I'm gonna call it on this particular piece just because I need to keep moving. It is just a model after all, but I like it. So now I'm going to take off these corners to make a square end cap for the peg, or make space for it. If you want to get good at hand sawing, do a bunch of these. Just a quick explanation. You can see how I scored. I mean, I'm doing it definitely the long way, and a lot of people may not do this who are just, really good at sawing by hand. I personally need to do this. I score my line, and then I use a chisel to kind of create a wall there. And then I take the saw and I bring it on the waist side of that. And it just makes everything go straight and a lot smoother. So not everybody does that. You probably don't have to do it, but I do it. Drop the hand down. Um, the better you saw, the less work you have to do down the line. The less kind of fit and finish you'll have to do, the less chisel work using a file or whatnot, because um, when you saw, you're actually slicing the end grain. You're not roughing it up like with sandpaper. It's more like a cleaner cut. So if you can nail it, now no fun intended, we are using a saw, not a hammer, but if you can nail it, you save yourself a lot of time moving forward with these joints. So voila. I went ahead and just cut the other one without videoing it because it was the same process, and just thought I'd spare you. It was also a little less interesting because, as you can see, it's a straight shoulder, whereas the one that we looked at was a angled shoulder. So anyway, that's both of them. So now we're moving on to the next step, where I need to make the tenons. The mortises for these tenons. So in here and in here, so these will slide in just like butter, hopefully. So that's what's next. So we're going to take this measurement here. Let's see the best way for you to see it. This measurement right here. So, and then that's going to go here. Let's see. To somewhat quickly add a little color to this, especially for people who don't know what a tenon is, or joinery, or mortise, like all this lingo that I'm using. This should give you an idea. This is me drawing out uh, the joint, and when I say joint or joinery, it's referring to the way in which two or more pieces of wood meet. And so here you have the one piece with the tenon on the left. The tenon is the piece that protrudes out. And then on the right you have the mortise where the tenon goes. And then usually you use a peg to kind of bind them. So hopefully that kind of illuminates what I'm doing here. So you can see the shoulder there. You can see the mortise there. So So this is a pretty good depth of the mortise for now. And then I'm gonna go ahead and, it's kind of hard to see, but I'm gonna saw basically a slot out to make a shoulder. So that So you can see that I've scored out that shoulder, this and down. So this is going to be removed essentially. Drop the blade. Okay, so here we have the tenon right here, and then we have the mortise with the shoulder. So I made it a little loose because I'm going to be taking these in and out throughout the model making process. So pretty good. So here we go. The main difference between this and the last one is that, as you can see, this has the angle on it. So this is, you know, deeper there, and then it goes up. And there we go. Welcome to my office. Now it's time to put everything together. You saw me making essentially two of these components, the mortise and the tenon. But this is actually what I've been doing over the last probably a month or so. And we're gonna assemble it into the entranceway, most of the main elements of it. So that's what we'll do now. Here are all the pieces together. This is what I've been doing for the last month. I only showed y'all, you know, some of it because it would get repetitive as a viewer to see me do all this, but it was quite a bit of work doing this all by hand. Gonna start with the front and work towards the back. Only the front corners have the pegs, and there's a reason behind it. It's not worth getting into, but that's why they don't all have pegs. We'll start with the front beam. That's a good place to start. This is not a flat work surface. It is kind of sacrilegious to not have a perfectly flat woodworking bench, but that's part of the trade-off for working outside a lot. I have a nicer bench inside, but I like being out here, and it does expose it to the elements, but that's a trade-off I'm happy to make. For the millionth time I've said it, this is a model. So I'm gonna be a little rough with it. I'm not too worried about little nicks. Now we will put the beams in. That. You can see I put notes on the wood. and they're not all the same. Like each part I experimented with a different dimensioning, different sizes of the tenons, until I got the right one, which is over here. But that's also where the wood split. So it's like a sketch, like an artist making a sketch for a painting. Now we're gonna do the middle posts. A little Lincoln log set coming along. Now we're gonna put in the middle beams. Back left. These are the ones that we did in the video. And I'll tighten them all at the end. They'll look a little loose right till the last second. Okay, now we're gonna do the posts. Good. Look okay? You tell me. Put something in the comments. Does this look okay? What do you think? Do you like it? Is it cool? Does it suck? What do you think? That's the main structure for the entranceway, for the model for the entranceway. Okay, and there we have it. You know, and you saw the process of these angles and then the straight parts down there. At some point, I promise you, we will be building the actual thing. But I want this thing to stand for 500 years, so I'm more than willing to spend this time making a cool model. Thanks for watching. So what do you think? Are you starting to see it yet? Here's the sketch, and hopefully it's starting to become clear what I'm actually making. Leave a comment down below. Love to hear what you think. Essentially what I'm doing now, there's a few things that need to be kind of finished up with this, but I was ready to take a little break from woodworking, so it was a good time to start the stained glass. And essentially the stained glass is going to form the roof of the entranceway. It will be reinforced by steel, so there shouldn't be any kind of safety concerns. You don't typically have stained glass directly above you. Usually it's this kind of orientation or slanted, but in this case it will be directly above, and it'll be layered. So 4 or 5 layers. I'm going to put a drawing up to show you what I'm talking about, to give you a sense of things. And so that's what I'm going to start doing. Let's do some stained glass. So my time here is running short. So I'm just gonna do this little 3x3 square and do the rest of this panel back in Austin. But essentially I'm putting some gel to which helps apply the solder. It's like a gel flux. My soldering rod or gun or whatever you'd call it is run off of a generator that I'm powering from the sun. So it's like kind of a poetic justice that I'm using literally like sunlight to solder stained glass, which the main quality of stained glass is the way that it conducts light. So that's kind of cool. So this is a little bit of a rush job. Apologize if it's a little messy, but I just wanted to get something done while I'm here. This is the first project I've really done out here, so I wanted to at least complete part of it. So and I don't mean to keep like hiding behind, oh, it's just a model, it doesn't count. It is a model, but it does count. It counts for me figuring out my approach. But I'm fine if there's some little flaws at this point, because it's like a sketch. When you sketch, when you're planning for a painting and you make preparatory sketches, that's kind of what I'm doing here. Now we're gonna put some patina on the solder. Should turn pretty dark. Helps to bring out the glass so that the reflection of the glass isn't competing with the reflection of the silver in the solder.